Get out of donuts.
Me too.
Wonder what took place. You're leaving.
Got late.
Hours. Stay. You gotta get the car. He's not gonna, he can't do it anymore.
We are back in open session, and I would like to report that no actions or votes were taken during executive session. Do we have any old business to come before the board?
Chairman, not old business, but if it's okay, I just wanted to add a comment back to the solar discussions, and I probably should have done this when the mayor was here, but I wanted to point out, and I guess give kudos to the elected officials, both in Sherman and Busti. You know, when the developers were discussing both projects, I was impressed to hear some of the mitigation efforts that they're considering and looking at, and I just sitting here thinking, wanted to point that out as a former local elected official that it's good to know our elected officials at the local level are looking at those things and thinking about the wider community impact, where it's not just an energy project coming in, and we know how contentious sometimes those discussions can be. But that obviously those folks are thinking about, you know, the agricultural impact, the sustainable forestry impact. So I wanted to add that and probably should have previously, but didn't want to disrupt the flow of the meeting. But it was good to hear that. And I obviously hopefully kind of hear some of that going forward as more of those projects kind of work their way through the process. So.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I was, fascinated when they were talking about grazing around the different panels or, beekeeping or whatever it might be. It takes a lot of extra work to try and incorporate all these different aspects of a community. And it is good to hear that they're interested.
Dan, I'll point out, when these first started coming in, many of you were not on the board, but the board had sort of three concerns. One was, sort of the visual, that kind of thing. What is this going to look like? So staff asked that question every single time. And also the decommissioning. And staff asks that every time and reports on that every time. And that's obviously, in conjunction with the town or village who's ever approving it. The third thing is, and this goes into the operative documents, is there was a question as to what the effectiveness of each of these facilities was going to be over time. So a 5 megawatt project, is it 5 megawatts? So in our documents, there is a requirement for the developer to report on that, on an annual basis. Is a 5 megawatt project really giving 5 megawatts? Just so we can sort of track, and if nothing else, that will tell you if it goes from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. I'm making numbers up, but 1 megawatt. Then you might think, well, okay, at some point, they may just walk away from this. So that's built into documents. And obviously, we've not gotten far enough with any of them to have those reports come in. But that's the third thing that the prior board, some of the members were before. So those are things that we put into the documents.
I'll add a fourth, and that is, does the community want it? Community doesn't want it, we're not touching it.
Right. So the ones that you get have passed all of that vetting.
Yeah.
And, when there are projects where the locality says, thanks, but no thanks, we're not interested. So, you just never even see those. And that does in fact happen.
Great. Okay. Good discussion. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to have an attorney-client privilege discussion, which is exempt from the open meetings law. You have a motion?
I'll move.
Again, do we have a second?
Second.
Dan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will go into meeting.
So this is the board.